They thought it was just another abandoned house, a forgotten relic swallowed by the fog-choked forest. But the rainy night had other plans. Their car headlights sliced through the dense mist, revealing the path to a place that had been waiting for them. On a hill overlooking the desolate road stood Graywood Mansion. Its windows were light-cracked, vacant eyes staring out into the eerie moonlight. It was a place where silence breathes and darkness whispers, promising secrets to anyone brave or foolish enough to listen. The moment their feet crossed the threshold, the heavy oak door creaked shut behind them. The air grew still, thick with the scent of dust and decay. They were in the grand main hall, where a colossal staircase had collapsed into a pile of splintered wood. Old statues, draped in white sheets like silent mourners, stood guard. The house welcomed them, not with a sound, but with a profound, listening quiet. As they ventured deeper, exploring a long, narrow hallway, a flicker of movement caught their eye at the far end. It wasn't a person, just a distortion in the air, a shadow that moved when nothing was there to cast it. It wasn't something they saw, but something they felt, a cold dread that slithered down their spines. Lily, the group's documentarian, raised her camera, trying to capture the oppressive atmosphere. She stood in what was once a living room, its shelves now broken and empty. Through her lens, she framed the peeling wallpaper and the cobwebs that veiled every corner. They filmed everything, meticulously documenting their descent into the unknown. Everything, that is, except for the thing that watched them from the impenetrable darkness just beyond the camera's light. From an empty corner of the room, a soft mist began to form, coalescing into the faint, ghostly outline of a figure. It was barely there, a suggestion of a shape in the horror-filled ambience. Then, a whisper came. It was soft, almost inaudible, yet it cut through the silence like a shard of glass. A single, chilling instruction: leave. Ignoring the warning, they pushed forward, drawn by a morbid curiosity. They found themselves in another wooden hallway, but this one held a terrifying surprise. A trail of fresh, wet footprints marked the dusty floorboards, leading away from them into the darkness. But they were the only ones there. The footprints appeared from nowhere, a ghostly procession from someone who walked, but wasn't there. The trail led them to a child's bedroom, frozen in time. In the center of the room, a small wooden rocking horse began to move on its own, its gentle creaking echoing like a lullaby from hell. A child laughed, a sound that was both innocent and deeply wrong. It was the laugh of a child that wasn't alive. On a nearby table lay the remnants of the family who once lived here. A torn portrait showed a mother and her children, but the mother's eyes had been violently scratched out, erased from the memory. Beside it, a half-burnt diary told a story of fear and madness, its final pages consumed by fire. The mother of this house was gone, erased even by her own memory. As they turned to leave the room, a glint of light caught their attention. An ornate, dust-covered mirror hung on the wall, but it wasn't their own reflections they saw. Staring back at them from within the glass was the image of a woman with hollow, black eyes and a sorrowful expression. She was still here, waiting. Panic finally set in. They scrambled back the way they came, desperate for the front door, for the outside world. But the house wasn't finished with them. A door they hadn't noticed before swung open, revealing a gaping black void that led down into the basement. A cold, unnatural fog billowed out, carrying the smell of damp earth and something else, something rotten. They ran, but the house simply opened another way for them. The descent was a nightmare. The wooden steps groaned under their weight, threatening to give way at any moment. When their feet finally touched the cold, stone floor of the basement, their flashlights cut through the absolute blackness. On the far wall, something was written in a dark, dried substance that could only be blood. The message was simple and terrifying. The house is hungry. They knew they had to get out, but as they turned, a sudden, guttural breath extinguished their flashlights, plunging them into total darkness. There was a scream, then a sickening thud. When the light flickered back on, Aaron was standing alone in the empty space where Lily had been just a second before. In a single, silent breath, Lily was gone. Days turned into a week. Aaron, tormented by what he'd seen, couldn't stay away. He had to know what happened to Lily, but he wasn't the only one drawn back to the mansion's malevolent pull. Lily's sister, Jessie, refusing to believe she was gone, arrived armed with a flashlight and a desperate hope. The house, ever watchful, invited another guest. Aaron and Jessie met outside, their fear forging an uneasy alliance. They went back inside, calling Lily's name, their voices swallowed by the oppressive silence. This time, they went straight to the basement, to the place where she was taken. But the basement wasn't empty anymore. Something else lived below. Something that was never human. A twisted creature of nightmare, with long, bent limbs and pale skin, crawled across the ceiling, its head turning with an unnatural crackle to fix its gaze upon them. As they recoiled in horror, a figure emerged from the shadows behind the creature. It was Lily. She was pale, her skin crisscrossed with dark, pulsating veins, and her eyes were pitch black, empty voids. A slow, pale smile spread across her face. Lily had returned, but she was not herself. The house began to change around them. The stone walls of the basement seemed to soften, becoming fleshy and organic, pulsing like the inside of a living beast. They were in the belly of the house. As they tried to run, the possessed Lily floated behind them, her feet never touching the ground, her chilling smile never wavering. The house wanted them all. They scrambled back up to the main hall, but escape was no longer simple. The portraits of the long-dead family hanging on the walls began to turn their heads, their painted eyes following their every move. One portrait, a young woman, opened her mouth in a silent, agonizing scream. Even the very walls watched their desperate escape. In the center of the hall, Lily levitated, rising towards the ceiling. A dark, violent wind began to spiral around her, lifting furniture, books, and debris into a chaotic vortex. Her voice, now a layered chorus of whispers, echoed through the hall. She didn't want freedom. She wanted company. With a final, deafening shriek, the massive crystal chandelier tore free from its mounting. It plummeted towards the floor, crashing in an explosion of dust, wood, and shattered glass. In the swirling cloud, the silhouette of the ghostly woman from the mirror appeared, her arms outstretched. The house struck, trying to keep them forever. Aaron grabbed Jessie's hand, and they bolted for the front door, not daring to look back. They burst out into the night, gasping the clean, cold air. As they sprinted to their car, they glanced back one last time. Lily was standing in the mansion's doorway, her body glowing with an unholy light, her black eyes watching them go. They fled, but her eyes followed, speeding down the dark forest road. Their hearts pounded in their chests. They were safe. They were out. But as Jessie glanced in the side mirror, her blood ran cold. Reflected in the glass, in the back seat of their car, was the ghostly, smiling face of Lily. They had escaped the house, but they would never escape the whisper.